Good morning, I'm Scott Willison, owner of the Confluence Fly Shop in Bellingham, Washington. It is now July here in North Puget Sound. A lot of our rivers are open. We have some good fishing for trout and char, various rivers around the area. One of my favorite ways to fish is, of course, fishing a streamer on a single hand rod with a short Skagit style head or a trout spay. It's a very fun way to fish. One of the patterns I fish quite often with that method is a Sculpin pattern. This is a little Sculpin I've been playing around with that we're going to tie today that I call the Sculpito Loco. And it's a fun little guy, not super big, pretty easy to cast on a variety of rods, and I'm going to show you how to tie it here. So we're starting out with what will end up just being our shank, but this is our front hook. It's a size 8 Gamakatsu S11S 4L2H. And I'm going to finish this fly with a Sculpin helmet. I've just thrown that on there to begin with, just to give myself kind of a little bit of a spacer so I know where I want to kind of finish my materials. The thread I'm using for this is a dark brown 70 Denier Ultra thread. And we'll just start that down the shank, going to just above the barb. I don't worry about debarbing this one because I'm going to clip the whole point off the hook anyway when I'm done. Now I've got a little piece of Power Pro here that I've gone ahead and already threaded a size 6 Owner SSW short stinger hook on there. And I want my loop here to be just a hair shorter than the length of the shank. We're going to make sure we get that bound down on top of the shank. And then, as we always do with our trailing hook material, we're going to wind that tightly forward, and then we're going to fold it back over itself. And then trim those ends. And I don't always do this, but using a lighter thread on this one, it's not a bad idea to take some brush on zap and just throw a little bit of that over your thread wraps. That will help make this fly very durable when you hook that 8-pound bull trout or something akin to that. Okay, next for our tail and kind of our body material a little bit, we're going to use a natural pine squirrel Zonker strip. This looks really good in olive or dark brown as well, but I think I like the natural best. And I'm going to size that tail so it's just a hair longer than my loop. And then we're going to make a nice part in that fur like so that we've got a good easy point to tie in. Take several wraps to secure that, and then we'll fold that material back. So I've got my tail bound down. I'm going to go ahead and secure this hook, and I kind of do this in an interesting way. I want to be able to change this hook if need be, so I'm going to just invert that hook, pull the loop over the top of it, and then we'll go ahead and just insert that pine squirrel into the loop before we pull it tight. Kind of make sure I get most of that hair out of there, and then we'll pull it tight. And I size that one pretty well. I want the leather not extending beyond the point of the hook, otherwise it will foul. But I've got enough of that leather in there that'll hold that securely and keep that stinger hook back there where it could do its job. Next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is make myself a little double dubbing loop. Using a lighter thread. So I just made a regular dubbing loop and then doubled it over. As we do with all of our dubbing loops, we'll go around the base a couple of times. That's just going to make this a little bit stronger so that when I spin it up tight, it's not going to break, hopefully. Now we're going to do our body dubbing mix here. As a base, I'm going to start with a cream colored STS Trilobal dubbing. And we're going to mix a little bit of tan UV ice dub in with that. I'm going to go about 50-50 on this one. And we'll just hand mix it here. I'm just kind of pulling those fibers together. I'll go ahead and lay that down, and then I'm going to do my gills at the same time. So for the gills, I'm going to use a mix of Trilobal dubbing in red, and then I'm going to use some red UV polar chenille to enhance that. So I got a really prominent gill on this thing. Then we'll lay that dubbing down next to our other stuff. And then what I'm going to do is just cut some of the fibers off of the UV polar chenille here. And we're just going to lay that perpendicular over the top. Get a few more fibers here. There, we should be good. Then we'll throw everything into that dubbing loop. Kind of hand distribute it a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and spin that up tight. Brush that out a little bit, get it looking nice and buggy. And then we'll go ahead and wrap that up. To where we finished our thread. Make sure to go over the top of it 2 or 3 times. Then we can cut that off and we're good to go. Next I'm going to put in a little collar. For this I'm using Gadwall. You could use teal or smaller mallard feathers if you wanted to. I like the brownish tints you tend to get in Gadwall, so I'm choosing to use that today. This is going to act as our collar. Sculpin have these pectoral fins that flare out when they're at rest, and this is kind of a big springy feather that mimics that very nicely. So we're just going to part the feathers back from the tip like so. And we'll go ahead and cut that tip off. And we'll tie this in by the tip there. And then I'm going to kind of train everything facing rearward. We'll get a good 2 or 3 wraps with that one. This Gadwall will move nicely in the water, but it's stiff enough to support our next part of the collar. I'm going to use a tan-dyed Grizzly Marabou for this. We will also tie this in by the tip. You got to be careful with this stuff. It's got a pretty thin stem up toward the tip, so it can break fairly easy on you. And with each wrap, I'm just sweeping everything back a little bit. Got about 3 wraps with that, then gonna get that tied in there. And then the last thing I'm going to do is take the rest of that squirrel and pull that over the top. I'll kind of part everything a little bit in the middle. Get that pulled over. And then we'll take a couple wraps to get that secured. Go ahead and cut that off. We'll build up a little head. This can be as ugly as you want it to be. We're going to cover it up with that Sculpin helmet here in a moment. Cut that off, and then we'll go ahead and add some more brush on Zap-A-Gap. To secure those threads. This will help secure the head a little bit as well. And then we're going to make sure to put this eye side up. These are weighted on the side opposite the eyes. I already pre-glued my eyes in. Now, to ensure that really stays on there, we're going to restart our thread in front of the head. And we'll build up some thread wraps to lock that into place. And then I'm going to test it, make sure it's not spinning a whole bunch. And then the last little bit we'll do is just finish the fly off with some of this Solarez Bone Dry that I absolutely love, and I'm just coating the thread wraps. And then we'll hit it with the UV light to cure it up. And then you can see that's got the perfect broad shovel head profile that you're going to get on a Sculpin, with a nice wide flare around where the pectorals would be, and then a very prominent gill. This thing has all the makings of a fish catching machine. And then the last little step I would do is clip off this this front hook here. Alright, and there you have it, the finished Sculpito Loco, ready to be fished on a favorite river near you. As always, thanks for watching today. Please be sure to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Have a great day.